Good morning, everyone. The Delaware County Commission meeting for January 22nd, 2018 is now in session. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With my right is Commissioner Barb Lewis, Vice President, and to my left is Commissioner Jeff Benton, fellow Commissioner. Our Administrator today is Mike Fromer, and our Clerk, Jennifer Walraven. With that, let's begin.
Resolution number 18-64, in the matter of approving electronic record of proceedings from regular meeting held January 18th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 18-69. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
I believe we have something under, we're going to do this under public comment of the land bank, or?
We can have that done under other business. I believe they're looking into a question
very
that
well.
was raised early, right
Proceed
before
then.
session started. Resolution number 18-65, in the matter of approving purchase orders and announced certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CM-APR 0119, memo transfers in batch number MT-APR 0119, and procurement card payments in batch number 01-19.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 18-65. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-66, in the matter of approving travel expense requests.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 18-66. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-67, in the matter of acknowledging receipt of annexation petition from agent from the petitioner, Jackson P. Reynolds III, requesting annexation of .280 acres of land in Concord Township to the village of Shawnee Hills.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 18-67. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-68, in the matter of approving the public notice invitation to bid for Delaware County Auditor's Office renovations.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
Good morning, John Melvin, Director of Facilities. Guess George Keitza couldn't make it over this morning. We're working with the Auditor's Office on the small project to better utilize the space, primarily around their lobby. They have quite a large lobby space there. George wants to reduce that space, reconfigure his counter, put a small interview room in the lobby space so we can meet with people directly. So,
That was part of the budget, correct?
yes, this is part of George's budget.
Any other comments or questions, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 18-18. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-19, a resolution of necessity for purchase of an automobile for the use of the Delaware County Sheriff's Office or its employees.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
Hi, good morning. Kevin Savage with the Sheriff's Office. Be more than happy to answer any questions that you have in regards to this.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-69. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-70, in the matter of authorizing the use of procurement card for the Public Information Communications Relations Department.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
Good morning. Jane Hawes, Communications Manager. This is, I think they've decided after 2 years that my training wheels are off, so I can get my own.
You can get your own card, huh? Yeah.
So-
With a very kind of a low limit.
Yeah. Thanks.
I don't have one, so either. So
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
still, I'm
All
still
right.
on that.
So it's not just me.
It's not
Yeah,
just
okay.
you.
20-year probation period.
Vote.
Vote on motion 18-70. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-71. This item, we do have a public comment form filled out for, so. A resolution of necessity to levy a renewal of an existing tax with an increase in excess of 10 mil limitation for the purpose of providing senior citizen services.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. I believe Mr. Horak is going to speak to us.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm pleased to see that
Introduce yourself for the record.
Robert Horrocks, and I'm proud to represent SourcePoint. And I'm pleased to see that at least our local government is up and running today. So thank you. Well, I come today with some couple pieces of good news and a proposal. As you undoubtedly know, our population in Delaware County is growing. The good news is that our older population is growing even faster. And it's good news because our older population provides a real sense of stability for the whole county. Most of us are relatively healthy. Most of us are financially secure. Most of us are very engaged in the community. Most of us pay sales taxes and property taxes and income taxes. Most of us are involved with supporting our families and our children and our grandchildren. George Kaitza reminded me the other day that we sure buy a lot of stuff for our grandkids. We do a lot of. We support local businesses. We support local restaurants, and all of that is good. There is a subset of our older population that needs, on occasion, some support and some help to remain living safely and securely in their own homes. And that part of our population is also growing. In 3 short years, the first baby boomer will turn 75 years old. Our average client is a 79-year-old female widow who lives alone. And the very fastest part of our older population is the 85 and older group. And so as we age, there is a greater likelihood of having a moderate or severe disability. And when that happens, oftentimes people are faced with, what do I do? Can I stay at home? Am I going to need to go into a nursing home? A long time ago, there wasn't too many choices, and we had a lot of people going into nursing homes unnecessarily. But today, we have excellent services and an excellent system, and that's the other piece of good news. Not as our older population continues to age, it could seem like a huge challenge, but because of the foresight of our community, we've solved that problem. We have created a system of coordinated services and care in this community, and we've developed the kinds of services that our older population needs. And this hasn't happened overnight. It's taken a while to get there, but it's a great advantage to us because now all we need to do is keep pace with that growth. And that's what our levy proposal is all about. We're asking for a renewal of the levy that passed in 2013 and an additional 1/10 of a mil. That 1/10 of a mil will be a new tax, and the new tax would be $3.50 per $100,000 of property valuation, less than 1 penny a day. And with that, we will be able to say to our community, we're good until 2023 to continue to keep our promise to the community that we made 25 years ago. And that promise was no waiting lists for in-home care services, and that we would try our very best every day to use this money in the best interest of our older population and our community. So that's our proposal. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, but first I would ask that you allow me one personal note. I've been doing this for a while now, and we have, actually this is if you allow us to be on the ballot, this will be our 7th ballot issue. The very first time we went right to the voters, and we did a citizens initiative petition drive. And back then, they had no reason to believe that we would be successful. All we had was a dream. But we took that dream, we made it into a plan, and the community gave us the resources to implement the plan. And that's why we're here today, because of the support of the community. The community is a lot of things, and it's our elected officials, folks that sat in these seats before you, and continuing up to this day, the support that we've received has been so much appreciated. It's our business community that's always been there to support us. It's our great group of service providers who provide quality services in the community, and that we've grown that list over the years. It's our army of volunteers that help make us be so successful, people that give up their own time. Last year, they donated $1.4 million worth of their time. Over the course of the 5 years of this levy, that will amount to over $8 million as it grows. Certainly, I have a wonderful staff, dedicated, passionate people, and I have a great board of directors, people that hold us accountable to make sure that we're focused on our mission and that we're spending dollars responsibly. And so with all of that behind us, I think we look to the future with a great deal of optimism, because the community has always been there for us, and we have always kept our promise. And as a result, we're here today to ask you to allow us to continue that process. Thank you very much.
Do you have some board members here today, or
I do.
you want to introduce your board?
Why don't you guys stand up? There's a bunch of you. Let's see. John McDavid and Bill Brown and Gretchen Roberts, Roger Vancicle, Karen Crossman. Is that it? Yep. A lot of our board members are working these days, but I really appreciate all of you coming out.
Thank you. With that, I'll open up to the board. Any comments, questions? Commissioner Bennett?
Go ahead.
I definitely support this levy, Bob, and you mentioned the partnerships, and with all the different groups, it's a beautiful thing to see, and it is so impressive to go to Source Point. And then I've done Meals on Wheels a few times, and that alone is impressive. But then when you see everyone there at Source Point really enjoying themselves and really busy, everybody's busy, whether they're knitting, whether they're playing pool, whether, it's just a wonderful place. And it really does enable people to stay in their own homes much longer than they would be. So I certainly support this levy, and I thank you very much for coming, everyone, today, and for, Bob, your presentation, too, and the time and effort that you've put in on the levy and coming up with the figures for the levy, the language, and everything. Well done.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bennett?
I want to thank Bob and Farah. We had an extended conversation about the numbers, which is what I tend to focus on. And I'm always torn, because nobody likes taxes. Everybody realizes we have to pay them, and nobody wants to increase taxes in particular. And I probably hear more complaints about taxes from senior citizens because of the fixed income nature that they have than probably any other group. So I'm especially sensitive to the seniors, who do really care deeply and understandably about raising taxes. So I spent a lot of time. Bob was very patient, and we worked through the numbers. And one thing that I think we accomplished was that we changed the direction. Originally, we were talking a replacement levy, and this is a renewal with an increase instead of a replacement. The replacement levy would have significantly increased taxes to all citizens of Delaware County, much more so than this renewal with an increase does. And so, and by what happens, and it's complicated, but what happens is the rollback funding that we get from the state goes away, and that's made up by the taxpayers. So we figured out a way to make a renewal with a very small increase work better than a replacement. And the renewal with a very small increase does save the taxpayers a lot of money in Delaware County and continues to get the funding from the state, which I'll get on my soapbox for a minute. Delaware County is a big donor county to the state. We pay a lot more in taxes than we get back in services, particularly school funding, Medicaid funding, and other main spending at the state level. We get a far smaller share of what we pay in back in supporting services. So we're already a big donor county, so I didn't want to be a bigger donor county, and so we were able to figure out a way to make it work. The issue never has been, in my mind, that SourcePoint isn't a valued community asset. It is a very valuable community asset that makes a huge contribution to the older population in Delaware County, and my mother uses the services. You know, everybody knows that somebody who uses the services on a regular basis. Commissioner Merrill plays a lot of pool there.
Publicize that.
But, no, again, the reputation of SourcePoint is top-notch. You know, you all do a great job. My concern, again, is just protecting the taxpayers and making sure that we're being as efficient as we can and recognizing that there is a growing need for these services that SourcePoint provides. So again, after spending a lot of time with Bob and working through it, I think we've worked out the best resolution that we can have and the fairest thing to the taxpayers of the county. So thank you all, and please continue the good work. You guys do a great job, and it's such an important asset for our community. And I will support it.
I don't have a lot to add to that. I think Commissioner Benton's role in this was helpful. And, of course, you and I had conversations as well as we worked through this. And I think I did find fault with one thing. You said it's good news, growing older, the county's growing older. Believe me, I don't consider that good news at all. So, if you guys do, that's up to you, but I don't. And,
We'll be here for you.
I do address Commissioner Benton's point. I do get over and play pool occasionally, on Saturdays typically. This Saturday I ended up with a kidney stone, ended up in the emergency room because it is a wonderful resource for our county. I do take advantage of some of the resources that are available, and there's a lot of really good people over there doing good things. Employees, the board members, and frankly, just the people that are members over there, how helpful they are with each other and how willing to help. So I think we want to always stretch our dollars and get the most bang for the buck. This approach allows us to do that, and with that, I heartily support it. And I think I've heard that from the other two commissioners as well. So with that, if there's no other comments, vote.
Heard on motion 1A-71, Mrs. Lewis? Aye. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And I would like to thank, as you know, it is a process, and I'd like to thank Mike and Cy and Dawn here and Jennifer and certainly County Auditor George Kaitza and Sherry Baker, and at the Board of Elections, Carla Heron, and Eric Hostetler with the Prosecutor's Office, and Chris Betts, and a shout out to our County Prosecutor Carol O'Brien for being a big source of support this time around.
I think you included everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
With that, are we prepared to move forward with the land bank?
We are. We have Treasurer Peterson was unable to be here this morning, but he sent some representatives from the Prosecutor's Office on an item that he has, so we will hear from our Prosecutor's Office, Chris Betts and Robert.
Christopher Betts, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney with the Delaware County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. I'm here with Robert Yaptango, who's also an Assistant Prosecuting Attorney with the Prosecutor's Office. We're before you again this morning in regards to the land bank, the Land Reutilization Corporation that the board set up a couple of weeks ago. But we're here on a very simple matter with that. We're in the process at this point of moving forward with the Secretary of State with the Articles of Incorporation and also establishing the board for the land bank. Pursuant to statute, that board consists of the treasurer, 2 members of this board, the commissioners, 1 member from the largest city that's in the county, and then also a township representative as well. There can be other members, but of course, that's something that's kind of more decided down the line. At this point today, we're before you with this resolution to go ahead and appoint the 2 members of the Board of Commissioners. You can either do that by name, or I think you could also do it. I don't see any prohibition of doing it by position title, such as the current president of the board and the current vice president of the board. I guess it's up to the board how they want to proceed with that. The statute just simply calls for 2 members of this board to be a member of the land bank board.
I asked Chris to look into whether we could do it by titles. I thought it might be healthy to have some rotation, and if we do it by titles, then there would be some rotation. It could also be past president, so...
However the board wants to
so,
decide to do it, it just
I
simply
just-
calls for 2 members of the commissioners to be a member of the land bank board.
I'd like to hear from the other 2 commissioners how they do it.
Well, I think Commissioner Benton, you had expressed a desire to be on this. I think your expertise would...
Yeah.
So I'm okay with Commissioner Benton and Commissioner Merrill.
You want to do it by name or titles, or how do y'all want to do it? I don't have no...
I guess one observation I would make is, having been on the board now for about 2.5 years, you really do learn a lot. You know, the longer you stay on a board, it does take time to get acclimated, like with DKMM or the Cinderella Youth Center, organizations I really didn't know a whole lot about ahead of time. I've learned a lot, and so now I'm a much more effective board member. So I guess I would say in this instance, there is some expertise that I, having a 30-year career in banking and having managed a lot of properties in various states of foreclosure and repossession, there's a lot of things I've learned over those years, and with my financial background, I think I could really help. So that's why I guess I would say I think we've got some skills on the board that are uniquely applicable to this organization, and I would say I'd prefer to appoint a name versus...
Are you comfortable with the 2 of us, sir?
Yes.
If I could add something for just 1 second to expound on what Commissioner Benton just said. Another requirement in the statute is that it says that at least 1 board member, this is of course referring to the land bank board, shall have private sector or nonprofit experience in rehabilitation or real estate acquisitions. That sort of speaks exactly to what you were just saying. It doesn't specify who that board member has to be, whether they have to be a commissioner or the treasurer or whoever, but what you just said speaks to that.
Yeah.
So do we need to recess till our time to prepare the resolution, or is it ready to go?
It's ready to go if the board is ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Without objection, why don't you read the resolution? And
Resolution number 18-72, in the matter of designating the official Delaware County Board of Commissioners representatives to the Delaware County Land Reutilization Corporation Board and authorizing execution of the Articles of Incorporation thereof.
So moved.
Second.
motion made and second. Any more discussion? Vote.
Vote on motion.
Did you need to...
We need to identify who those 2 folks
All
are.
right.
I thought that just as you...
The Board of Commissioners of Delaware County, State of Ohio, designate Commissioner Jeff Benton and Commissioner Gary Merrill, Delaware County Commissioners, to serve on the Delaware County Land Reutilization Corporation Board and authorizes each to execute the Articles of Incorporation thereof.
We need a motion and a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we
that's
just needed
okay.
to put the names in there.
Okay. Oh, sure.
There were blanks
Is that
in the
part of
resolution.
it? Do you need a...
Is it a new motion or?
Better
a-
new
That's
motion?
part of the resolution.
Part of the resolution.
part of the resolution.
Read it in its
Okay.
entirety.
Okay.
And so it's now been read in its entirety. We've already made a motion and a second. I believe we're good with that. I don't think we have to redo that. If there's any discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 18-72, Mr. Merrill.
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Benton.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chris. Thanks,
Thank
Robert.
you both.
That brings us to administrator reports.
Farmer.
Good morning, Commissioners. Under the report, I just wanted to mention, I I've had the opportunity to work with Bob at SourcePoint, and I think something that gets a little lost in the discussion is how it helps folks that have aging parents. One of the biggest challenges my wife and I have had over the last year is starting to parent our parents through some healthcare
That's a good
situations.
point.
And so it really struck as I had worked with Bob on this how it's not something just for the aging residents, but it's also to help it's harder to parent a 73-year-old parent than it is a 13-year-old kid. We'll tell you that. So anyway, it's been a pleasure, and like I said, I think it's something that touches everybody, so.
That's a great point. It does.
Can we quote you on that? No.
What's that? Depends on the day for the 13-year-old. He's got to, but anyway.
Is that all?
Yes, that's the only thing I have.
Mr. Lewis?
Well, I have nothing except, aren't you kind of young to be going over there and playing pool?
I'm going to say yes to that, although I think my birth certificate would deny that.
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Mr. Benton?
Just a couple things. We did go to the State of the City on Thursday, and City Manager Tom Homan and City Mayor Carolyn Riggle did a great job of presenting just a lot of good news on what's going on in the city of Delaware. They've got a lot of really good things. There's always in a growing community, there are growth challenges, and that presents unique challenges, but they're good problems to have, good challenges, and Tom and Carolyn do a really nice job, and the whole city council and the city of Delaware is obviously doing very well, and it's great to see. Wednesday, we have a meeting with DKMM to talk about the future there, with possibly doing some more work with Rumpke, which will be very interesting as that group works on its future. I had a call with NACO, the National Association of Counties, on Friday, and the Supreme Court has taken on an interesting case, and that is remote collections of sales tax. This issue has been tossed back and forth quite a bit among the states and the federal government about what powers do states have to collect tax from retailers who don't have a presence in their state. And they're taking a case that may resolve that issue once and for all, good or bad, depending on your perspective. But that's a very important case, and as we all know, retailers struggle to compete with online retailers who don't have to pay sales tax if they don't have a presence in that state.
That's a good point. I think it's, some certainty would really help.
Oh, yeah. Right now, it's
Taxpayers and...
It's state by state, jurisdiction by jurisdiction on exactly what is collected and so on, who pays. Lastly, I met with a gentleman who runs Homeport, a former Banquin colleague of mine, and Homeport is a affordable housing organization in central Ohio that is looking to do more business in Delaware County, because we all know we need more affordable housing in Delaware County. And they provide it. They're interested in working with us to figure out ways to do that. We have workforce constraints. I think probably our biggest economic development challenge is getting a reliable workforce, to provide for all the manufacturers, industrial base, the retailers, et cetera. And a big part of that is having workforce housing. And this group will work on that as we go forward. So, anyway, that's all I got. Commissioner Merrill.
I have a couple of things. I attended the Development Disabilities Board meeting Thursday night. It was a reorganization meeting, and that went well. And I think it's helpful for the commissioners to attend those occasionally. So, actually, a lot of our board meetings, just so I think it makes us more aware. So, and the CCO had the board meeting on Friday, which I attended. We were talking about tax, and you talk about the remote tax, but we have the sales tax, what's the word I'm looking for, that deferred on the back to school 3 or 4 days in August. And then right now that's voted on every year. There is an effort being made to make it permanent. you can look at that two ways. A lot of these counties, the smaller counties especially, are dependent on that sales tax, and you have the state determining, and they take away every place they can, and they take away 3 or 4 more days. So from that perspective, I think it's a hardship that the state apparently doesn't recognize. On the alternative of that, it is a savings to the taxpayers in this state. So it's one of those quandaries that we all have to face as elected officials. And on the remote, we need to get to the point where everyone pays their fair share of sales tax. In my opinion, when you buy online, you still have a responsibility to support the local communities where those purchases are being made. In fact, it probably means that the overall sales tax could be reduced, if in fact that was
Enforced consistently.
if
If it was
it's
enforced
and
across the board.
policed and across the, it only works across the board. Right now, it's hit or miss,
Right.
as you indicated, and that's not a good system, but
And the individuals are supposed to present their online purchases on their income tax return and then voluntarily submit the sales tax by law, but
that's unrealistic.
the compliance with that is well below 100%, shall we say.
Yes.
Well below.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. But it is something that is emotional, and the argument would be made to those who aren't paying, why it should continue. But brick and mortar is still an important part of our communities, and they shouldn't be paying more than what I consider their fair share. So that's going to have to be settled at the federal level. And so that's my view. I think I'm shared by fellow board members. I don't put anybody on the spot. But it's going to take some work at the federal level to get that accomplished. I have nothing else. I don't believe we have a need for
I
executive.
do not believe we have a need for executive sessions.
So I think we can conclude our business for today. With nothing else to do, we are adjourned.